Good afternoon and welcome everybody. I am Chair Gina Mackey and this is the meeting of the Laughlin Town Advisory Board at the Laughlin Regional Government Center at 101 Civic Way in Laughlin. Today is Tuesday, September 8th and the time is 1:30. Just a note, social distancing will be practiced during this meeting. You will be asked to keep appropriate spacing 6 feet away from other meeting attendees. Items on the agenda may be taken out of order. The board may combine 2 or more agenda items for consideration. The board may remove an item from the agenda or delay discussion relating to an item at any time. No action may be taken on any matter not listed on the posted agenda. All planning and zoning matters heard at this meeting are forwarded to the Board of County Commissioners, Zoning Commission, BCC, or the Clark County Planning Commission, PC, for final action. As a reminder, please turn off or mute all cell phones and other electronic devices, and please take all private conversations outside the room. With a 48-hour advance request, a sign language interpreter, or other reasonable efforts to assist and accommodate persons with physical disabilities may be made available by calling area code 702-455-3530 or telecommunications device for the deaf at area code 702-385-7486 or Relay Nevada toll-free 800-326-6868. Supporting materials provided to the board members for this meeting may be requested from Tammy Harris at area code 702-298-0828 and will be available on the county's website at www.clarkcountynv.gov. The board members are Gina Mackey, chairperson, Kathy Oakes, vice chair, James Maniaci, Niles Smith, and Herman Walker. Secretary is Tammy Harris, and the county liaison is Mark Robledo. And that brings us to number 1. We're going to do the call to order, invocation, pledge of allegiance, and roll call. I'm calling to order. Doug, would you do the honors, please?
Invocation.
For the invocation.
Will you please rise, please? Father, we thank you for being here. We thank you for being a wonderful creator of the universe. We ask you today to oversee this meeting, to oversee everything that's going on, everything that's being said. Please bless all the hearts, all the minds. Help us to do our best, our absolute best as always. We ask you to look over our police department, fire department, and our great school teachers. Ask that give them the strength they need, the courage they need, and everything that they need to do the job that you've given them to do. We are 100% supportive of them. We are very grateful for them. We thank you for the quality of people you've given us and these excellent teachers and fire department and our excellent police department. We thank you and we bless you and bless us too. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Okay, roll call. Gina Mackey, present. Kathy Oakes,
Here.
James Maniaci,
Here.
Niles Smith, absent. Herman Walker.
Here.
We have a quorum. Number 2 on our agenda is public comment, and this is a period devoted to comments by the general public about items on this agenda. No discussion, action, or vote may be taken on this agenda item. You will be afforded the opportunity to speak on individual public hearing items at the time they are presented. If you wish to speak to the board about items within its jurisdiction, but not appearing on this agenda, you must wait till the comments by the general public period listed at the end of the agenda. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Please step up to the speaker's podium and clearly state your name and address, and please spell your last name for the record. If any member of the board wishes to extend the length of the presentation, this will be done by chairperson or the board by majority vote. Is there anybody here that would like to speak at this period, in this time? And if you do, there's a little sheet back there that I'll need your name on it. Seeing none, we will move on to number 3. This is approval of the minutes for August 11th for possible action.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One abstention. I wasn't here for that meeting.
Okay,
I got my days confused.
so the motion carries 3, and then there's one
Abstain.
abstain. Thank you.
That worked.
Okay. Number 4 here is the approval of the agenda for September 8th for today to hold, combine, or delete any items for possible action. Is there any discussion?
I'll go ahead and move then.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0, and for the approval of the agenda for September 8th, 2020. Moving right along, number 5, informational items. Number 1 on this item is receive a report from Lieutenant Jeff Hughes with Metro Police regarding activity and statistics during the past month and other area crime concerns. For discussion only. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Looking back in August 2020, total calls for service in the Laughlin area is 370, which was down about 8% from the year prior. Traffic citations, 347 traffic citations given out in Laughlin. We had 2 DUI arrests last month. Battery and domestic violence arrests, for Laughlin, we had 7 adults and no juveniles. And then total bookings in Laughlin were 44. Looking at the activity on Casino Drive, the top 3 casinos that generate most of our calls for service in order would be Riverside, Aquarius, and Pioneer. And then in the residential area, in order, it would be Crown Point, Vista Creek, and Riverwood. Year to date, our grand larceny autos are down about 50% right now. That was 32 down to, we're at 16 right now, so that's 50% decrease right now. Our residential burglaries are also down. They're down about 37.5%. From last year, at this time, we were at 32 and we're at 20 right now. And then our auto burglaries, where somebody breaks into a car, we're actually even as we were last year. And with that, I always preach the lock, take, hide. Make sure you lock your car, take your valuables with you, and if you can't take them with you, at least hide them so you don't make a target for yourself. But a lot of the auto burglaries that we've seen, people are just leaving their vehicles unlocked. And it's just easy when we see video surveillance of somebody going down a row of cars, just checking to see which one's unlocked, and they make entry into the one that's unlocked. So just a good reminder to lock your cars. Other than that, are there any questions?
Any questions from the board?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Kathy.
Lieutenant, I was just curious, are you seeing those predominantly in residential, or are you seeing them in like commercial parking lots?
It's actually been mixed.
Okay.
Lately, since we opened back up, we have seen more on the Casino Drive area, but we still see them in our residential areas as well. And it's the same type of thing where people are leaving their vehicles unlocked.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions from the board? Seeing none. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Don't blow away out there.
No kidding.
Number 2, under informational items, receive a report from Nevada Highway Patrol regarding activity and statistics during the last month and other public safety concerns. Do we have a report? No? Okay. Moving along to number 3, receive a report from Clark County Fire Department regarding, so we have none. Number 4, receive a report from Chris Bramley, Clark County's Vector Control Supervisor, and Michael Cavallero, Bullhead City's Pest Abatement Manager, for discussion only. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me here today to kind of talk a little bit about the net spitting caddisfly research program that I started here in Bullhead City. I've been with Bullhead City for about a year now, and it's been a busy year. You can go next slide. So just to briefly go through some of the basics, I know this is the first time you guys have met me before, so I kind of like a good baseline foundational knowledge of where I'm coming from, just so I don't throw too many concepts out of left field. But I just want to talk a little bit about net spitting caddisfly biology, ecology, and life history strategies, kind of why we have these insects here, the impacts of large dams, the uniqueness of Davis Dam, and then just an update on some of the research projects I have currently going on. Next slide. So as aquatic insects, they have most of their life cycle underwater. So they have 4 distinct life stages: an egg, larva, pupa, and adult. Their egg masses can have several hundred viable eggs. They're known as collector-gatherers, so they will filter the water column with these big silk nets that they catch food particles in. So they gather up all their food. Sometimes they'll graze on those silk threads, and sometimes they'll just eat the whole silk net as a big meal. But they are primarily found in headwater areas where there's a lot of water velocity moving over them, high nutrients. Basically, the river here is a little bit of a buffet for them, so they can cast their nets out and catch a bunch of food, and they're able to grow and develop quite quickly. One unique thing is that they are mostly underwater throughout their life cycle. So about 90% of their lifespan is spent in the water, and as adults, they only live for maybe about a week to 10 days. Next slide. Some pupa will drift really long distances from where they set up shop in the river. So this is known as macroinvertebrate drift. So if they are, eating and pupating in one spot, when they're ready to become adults, they'll kind of drift up into the water column, swim up to the top. They have this phototaxis that they know which way up based on where the sun is or the moon. So they'll come out of the water that way. The adults, when they emerge, they're mostly going to swarm in the morning and in the evenings. They are really, really bad at flying. They look for stagnant air pockets and often rest in darker colors and in vegetated areas. They have vestigial mouthparts, so they can't bite. They don't have stingers. The only kind of public health aspects that caddisfly pose are if their hairs get on your skin. Some people have some dermal reactions, or if they are so abundant, their hairs kind of get up in your respiratory system, and some people are sensitive or have asthmatic conditions. These hairs are covering their wings, and that's how they got their scientific name from the order Trichoptera. So this means just hairy wings. And some caddisflies will actually use them as little scuba gear. So their hairs are hydrophobic, so they're little air pockets that will actually attach to their bodies when they want to dive down and lay eggs. It's pretty quite interesting. Next slide. So they need really, really high water quality. They are sensitive to pollution. So one caveat of having a pestivorous insect that likes high water quality just shows how high the water quality is here with the Colorado River. They typically will look for, again, high water velocity. They like these structured areas with rocks. If you go out into the river, you can see them typically attached to jetties or docks or boats, but they're also on things like trash and big mossy algal mats. So a little bit of a variety of where they will set up shop, but they tend to focus in on these little microhabitats. Next slide. So the impacts of large dams are pretty comprehensive, and the environmental history of the entire river system is changed through these big man-made structures. So if you think about the prehistoric Colorado River, it was shallow, muddy, warm, miles wide, and the seasonality of it would be, these warm waters in the summer, the snowpack releasing this big gush in the spring, And if, looking at the Grand Canyon, if erosion was a superpower, it would be much more murky than it is. Dams will kind of deplete the sediment, so kind of remove some of these little microhabitats. It'll kind of create an incision into the topography of the landscape, so becoming more channelized, deeper, in this case, a lot of cooler because we're receiving water from the bottom of a reservoir. And the big take-home message from this is it just creates a kind of a homogeneous habitat. So what we've done with these big, large dams is create basically the Goldilocks zone for these pest insects. And they continue to terraform their own habitat in a simplified river system. So when they build these nets and in these cases, they will continue to embed and impact the sediment of the river bottom. So the other example of this that's still an issue today is the Central Arizona project, the canal system. So if you think about a channelized system with cool running water moving fast, these canal systems are also infested with these net-spitting caddisflies, very similar to below the Davis Dam and Parker Dam before that. Next slide. So what happened to Davis Dam? So we have, again, a dam-impacted river system, so simplified river habitats. We have control of one of its competitors, the blackfly population, which Chris will talk a little bit more about. So reduces this kind of real estate habitat for different larvae. At one point, we had lowered trout stocking. So one of the, and again, another point that Chris will bring up, we have upped our trout stocking over the last decade. So this low point may have given them another foothold. We also had the quagga mussel invasion in about 2009, 2010 area. And these are efficient little filter feeders that have cleared up the water. I don't know if you've noticed over the years, this water has become clearer and clearer, and that's mostly because these mussels are basically little fish tank filters, and they filter out a lot of the murkiness and turbidity in the water. So with higher water clarity, you get higher sun penetration and a lot more algal growth, primary production, basically more bug food. We also had the koi herpes virus that knocked out a lot of our carp. Carp don't particularly like to eat caddisflies, but they do munch on different submerged vegetation and algae and things that caddisflies might be grazing on or might potentially use as habitat. We had continued riverbed stabilization over time. So again, this environmental history of dam-impacted rivers. We had a lot of dissolved nutrients. So Mojave Reservoir pouring out these little bits of plankton and any kind of other inputs, basically making it a buffet for these insects. We have no riparian or riverfront habitat. So when they swarm, they would have preferred bushes, trees, grasses, things like that, but there are parts of the river where that just doesn't exist anymore. So the closest structure to swarm is your patio or your dock or something like that. So the silk also acts as another riverbed stabilizer. So they, again, this whole concept of terraforming it. And we have a lot of light pollution. So they have a phototaxis as adults. My light trapping program right now, I can catch a few thousand in an hour in a single trap. So at night when there are the riverfront homes that have their patio lights on or something like that, they draw them in again. So we have this kind of multivariate scenario where it was a perfect storm, which I comically call the perfect swarm of things that happened that yield this pestiferous level of caddisflies. Go to the next slide. So to quickly go over some of the projects I have ongoing, one is a larval control project looking and exploring at installing artificial fish habitat in the Colorado River. This is actually pretty exciting. I recently got approval from the Army Corps of Engineers in cooperation with the U.S. Coast Guard and Arizona Game and Fish to install these reef ball structures that you see on the left here. So these are smaller versions of these reef balls that they typically use for coral reef reconstruction. And what they're mostly designed to do is focusing fish foraging efforts. So the sites that I've selected to install these habitat are high dense caddisfly areas. So the idea is with the trout stocking and other fish that exist in the river, if we have these habitats, focus in the most dense areas. We hope to focus their feeding there. They also provide some shelter and protection from the water velocity and the large cormorants that eat a lot of our trout, and the trophy stripers that love to eat 10-inch trout. Again, Chris will talk a little bit more about the trout stocking, but we also have hopefully this synergy where if we install more of these fish habitats, if they are successful, where we can actually stock trout or stock fish on top of these habitats to give them a fighting chance against these other kind of either these predatory variables. Next slide. Recently, we had a very exciting development where we lowered the Colorado River for larval control. So this idea is mostly a kind of a cultural management strategy. So we have a water management that over the course of the year has hydro needs, has irrigation needs, has recreation needs, and these caddisflies are kind of habituated to a certain water level. So the 1 unit line is typically a really big hot spot for caddisflies to hang out. And the idea is essentially just to pull the rug out from underneath them for a little while and try to dry them out and expose them to high temperatures. Right? This was a pretty successful pilot run we had on August 27th, where the river was lowered for about 11 hours, I believe, and exposed a lot of these high dense habitat areas. I am still working on the acronym. Right now I have RIP flows for reduced insect pests, but also, to look at different behaviors of other insects and fish to see how the ecosystem responds to these low flow events. And we'll be doing this again, hopefully this Thursday. We'll extend the low flows a little bit longer. The experiments that were conducted on the low flow day yielded some pretty interesting results, looking at almost 50% mortality of larvae in those exposed areas. Not half the caddisfly population, but looking at just the exposed areas of between that 1 unit release line and that half unit release line. Okay, next slide. Here's just some more photos of looking at the dried out cases, some of the larvae during the exposure, trying to seek refuge either in the moss or under rocks. Next slide. We also have a number of adult control programs. The first one I'll just briefly talk about is a male and female caddisfly pheromone characterization. So the idea behind this is to try to see if there are sex-specific compounds that are identifiable to caddisflies. Most of the ones that are swarming around homes and the casinos and riverbanks and things like that are males. So we were looking to try to identify a female pheromone to draw in these males. So far, our field trials have yielded no response. We have a few more tests to run actually this week. Our partners at University of California, Riverside are conducting what's called electroantennogram analysis. So basically taking the insect head and looking at neural responses to the antennae based on different compounds that we synthesize from the females. We're also going to be looking at adult aggregate pheromones. These are pheromones that are used by other males to try to aggregate in certain areas if they're finding a lot of luck. And the female pheromone is mostly just a direct kind of signaling to a mate. We suspect that these insects use more visual cues, but we hope to wrap up this project within the next few months. Next slide. And I believe this is the last project I'll just briefly talk about. We're looking at pesticide paints. So this is a product that has insecticides embedded in the paint so that when an insect comes in contact with it or goes near it, it has either contact toxicity or repellency properties. You can see by the kind of schematic on the left there, basically one scenario where the insect can actually touch the paint, the other scenario where it's just close to the paint, and so far we've had pretty significant responses. This is through a collaboration with a private company out of Spain called Nestfly. They typically work in third world countries in areas that are stricken with different mosquito diseases. And they're looking to break into the North American market, and I reached out to them for a pilot program to look at their product and its efficacy to adult caddisflies. Next slide. So here's just an example of the setup in the lab. So this is methods that were developed by the World Health Organization to look at insecticide-embedded substrates or products for mosquitoes that are just adapted for caddisflies. Next slide. And then we also have a number of biomonitoring programs going on right now, looking at adult abundance over time. and larval abundance as well. So we have emergence traps. Those are the traps that you see out in the river that are floating and catching these insects as they exit the water. And then we also have every 2 weeks a UV light trapping program, which was adapted by the USGS Grand Canyon Research and Monitoring Program. Next slide. Oh, thank you for your attention today. There's time for questions. I'm happy to entertain.
Okay, are there any questions from the board? Jim?
Very thorough.
When do you expect the first major invasion of the season?
So they typically have 2 peak emergence periods. We had our first peak in April to May, and our second peak is typically September to October. We also had a smaller peak in early August that I identified through my trapping. The idea with this low flow experiment and the timing of it now is try to reduce this next coming influx of adults that are likely to happen in maybe late September.
And I didn't catch, you said September through when?
October, but they will persist in some areas of the river up until early December by some accounts. Some riverfront owners have said that they are around their properties 8 months out of the year. So, but the next big one should be late September to into October.
Any other questions? I have one.
Sure.
On this new, the pesticide paint trials, what are the effects of this paint on other animals and reptiles, et cetera?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So part of the part of this trial is looking at the potential environmental risks as well. My PhD was looking at the non-targeted risks of insecticides on aquatic insects and pollinators and things like that. I've actually reached out to a colleague at the USGS California Water Research Center, and we have some leaching experiments that we're going to do to look at runoff from these paints to see if there are concentrations in the water after it rains that are dangerous to fish and things like that. And we're also doing a really exciting pilot program looking at the insecticide residues on these insects after they come in contact. So, you know, an insect hits this paint, it dies. What happens if a bird eats it? What happens if a lizard eats it? You know, are there measurable concentrations on their bodies to pose harm to, you know, things like secondary poisoning? So all in progress, but very much on my radar.
Yeah, thank you, because I can see it maybe as it gets older, it chips off, falls into the river, fish eat it, you know, it's throughout the chain.
Right, yeah,
well,
no,
so-
and one thing that I am mostly concerned about and how this would be used as a tool, the primary insecticide compound that are used in these paints are pyrethroids, which are very, very toxic to fish. So this is something that's very much on my mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I might not have caught this when you did say it. How often are you going to be doing this, lowering the water?
So the pilot program right now was just the 2 days. So we had August 27th, and we hope to have the second one on Thursday, September 10th. What I hope this turns into is some kind of a regimented lowering program where maybe it's 3 to 4 times a year where we try to lower the river and reduce the number of larvae in these areas based on their life history. So, you know, they have a big pulse in the spring of adults, small pulse in early summer, and a large pulse in fall where we have high adult activity. Are there strategic ways of lowering the river while they're larvae before they become adults to reduce those spikes? So that's in practice, that's kind of how I see it evolving, but we're still collecting a bunch of data to see how that goes.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we're going to change it up a little bit because you've had a lot of this data. Black flies are pretty much sympathetic with caddis flies. So these are pictures of applications of the BTI that we use for the river. So these pictures are used to show you how we treat dock structures, because dock structures are great substrates for black fly larvae. So what we're trying to do is incorporate into the image of the program how we do it. So here again, our boat, we rent a boat from Desert Recreation, a pontoon boat, So this is the only program in the United States that releases its BTI underwater, which allows it to mix into the water column faster, so we can treat smaller sites. We don't have to treat a mile up above something to hit a breeding site. We can get right on top of it. So it saves product, it saves time, it saves money. This program started in 1975. The research took 10 years, and the program began in 1986. This is our beaver, Billy Bob. This is something I show you that we've been treating this river for a long time, and the beaver's been our friend. We don't hurt him. So the BTI is a great product. It only works on black flies, mosquitoes, and some midge population. So the good thing about this program is that at one time it was the third. Now here along the edges of those leaves, you could see the black fly larvae as they were spinning, moving around, because they're the same thing. They filter feed, they attach something, and then the water flows through and they feed off of that. So the BTI is a product that mixes in. Now this is the problem with pollutants in the river. That's a chip bag that got stuck in a dam. The larvae love it. Again, now the photo of it. So we find these types of things caught up in the dock structures, and so that just precipitates a great reproduction site. So a lot of the things that we can do to eliminate the trash in the river would be a good thing to prevent. Go ahead, next slide. Would go ahead and prevent us to have a less of a harborage area for these aquatic insects. So that's a pretty heavy population. And in that catch, there were 16 pieces of paper like that. So the NPDES permit that we have with the state of Nevada requires that we reach a certain threshold to make an application. And so we technically go to about 10 larvae per square feet, multiplied over the whole river to make an application. And that would trigger an application all in itself. Next slide. So this program has been monitored by the state of Nevada since I became the supervisor in 2004. Now I'll show you some videos. So this is an actual application. We use GoPro videos on all parts of the program now, pre-surveys, applications, and post-surveys to document the work before, during, and after. So the material is made, we make a line from one side of the river to the other, so then it flows down and it feeds all of the larvae and all the different breeding sites, which were similar to the ones with the caddisflies. Problem is that this product doesn't work on caddisflies, so it's specific to blackfly. So again, what we're trying to do is show you how we're helping out our casino brothers. The more we treat their docks, the less amount of larvae and reproductions they have there, which, this program, like I said, most people don't know what a black fly is. In the late 90s to early 2000s, we had a lot of adults. Now you hardly ever see them. So most people are dealing with caddisflies, and they see mayflies, and they call them black flies, but most people haven't seen a black fly in quite a few years. The program, like I said, at one time it was the largest in the Southwest. Now we're third. We've reduced the cost of the program at a high was about $775,000 a year, and we've got it down to under $200,000 now because of all the experimental work, the understanding of how these larvae live in the water. And so that's what his program is so important, because the projects that he's doing also help mine, because it moves them all out, dries them out. So hopefully we'll be able to lower the amount of BTI that we use, which would lower the cost, which would help on the fish program. I thought I had a slide in there for the fish, but we're working with Arizona and stocking these fish at different points of the river. And this might be our video here. So these are the fish after they've been stocked down at Rotary Park. They get back in there in that little inlet bay there. So they sit in there until they kind of get acclimated, and then they swim out. And that picture was taken on a day of an application. So the product doesn't bother any of the other aquatics in the river, any of the wildlife, people. Like I said, we've been treating the river since 1986 without any issues. And Valent, who provides us the BTI, is willing to come in and give these same kinds of, talks about their product and how they researched it. But the material came from a desert in Israel. They found this bacteria that, they tell you, hey, it kills mosquitoes and it kills black flies. So they ferment it in Chicago and then they ship it out to us. One last, okay, yeah, so now we're just basically the same slide. So you can go ahead and stop with that, Doug. So now basically what we're trying to tell you is that the program has been active since '86. It works now 6 applications a year. We work with everybody from BOR, with Doug, Bullhead City, Mark, we let everybody know when we're making applications. The public's allowed to come and see the boat that we use. They're allowed to come and ask us questions when we're doing our survey work. We talk to a ton of people all the time. There's nothing hidden with this program. We've worked very hard to educate the public all these years. And now with Jackie, working with Jackie, we've kind of expanded our educational outreach. This board, in some ways, over the years, has always had a report from me. So anytime you need information or you'd like to hear something else, all you have to do is let Tammy and Mark know, and we're more than happy to come down. And I could have showed you the same things that he did, but you'd already seen that, so I'd rather you see the actual insects in the water. But basically, caddisfly and blackfly do the same thing in the river. Blackflies don't bite. They're a nuisance, just like the caddisflies. And like I said, we've done a real good job with this program for a long time, so we haven't had any blackfly problems in a while. There's very few people around today. Most of the people that remember blackflies are older than me, and I'm almost 60. So when I've done work over in Bullhead City at their chamber and stuff, all the old guys come up, I remember those. None of the new people that live in this community or over there know what a blackfly is, so that's a pretty good thing. So if you have any questions or if there's anything I can do else for you, I'm here for you.
Thank you. Any questions? Kathy?
Madam Chair, just a question of both of you. You had talked earlier about doing scheduled lowering. So this question is in two parts. First off would be the doing lowering if it has to be seen of any negative effects on any other species or if it is a positive. And then is there a possibility to get that as a regular scheduled thing? If it causes less chemical, less work, it dries out some of those, is there a way this board can help? And what are the channels to go through to make that happen?
Okay, so the first part of your question, lowering the river is a benefit that would be great. If we could get that done all the time, once he was talking about 3 or 4 times a year, I would think if we could do 4 times a year, that would be great. It doesn't. Every morning when he starts his work, I'm the one
Talk to the mic, please.
so I'm out looking for residents that have a problem, businesses that are complaining, fish that may be landlocked. So last time on the 27th, I spent all morning out there. I gave my business card out to probably 25 people. I had not one negative complaint. Everybody was positive with it. They loved it. They thought it was a great idea. And then when I've had more conversations with them, trying to tell them that if this works, it allows us to reduce other things, the cost of fish that we, because fish are pretty expensive. The BTI is $27,000 an application.
Right.
So when my program first started, at our high, we were almost $800,000 a year. Now it's under $200,000. So if this works, what he's doing, maybe we can drop it down to under $100,000. And that's money that could be saved, education, outreach of some other kind. This board, as long as I've been here, has helped us through Jackie Brady, everybody. The board has been great. So as long as we have your support, you will help us in many ways because you will talk to people and outreach for us. Jackie's been awesome. So, like I said, we're here to help you and give you that information. Okay?
Just quickly from just kind of like a foundational knowledge base, the BOR has a cooperation with the Multi-Species Conservation Program, which basically dictates, based on ecological risk assessment, from their operational bandwidth, that they can go as low as 1,300 CFS, for emergencies, if there's a car accident, if they have to recover a body and things like that. That's the lowest they can go without having any kind of ecological harm happen to the river. And our low flow events are 2,100 CFS. So almost, close to double that. So just as far as the kind of non-target effects to other organisms in the river, we're well above what would be really dangerous.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out.
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jim?
Is this limited this program just to the Laughlin area, or does it include other areas of Clark County?
The aquatic insect interlocal agreement that we have signed with Bullhead City is for all of Clark County. Okay, basically it's for Clark County here, and Bullhead City, Fort Mojave. The interlocal runs from Davis Dam to past Fort Mojave. But we use the interlocal program to work in Laughlin Lagoon, which Public Works is looking at doing some additional vegetation management work in the lagoon. So we're going to use the aquatic insect program to work with that. So this, it will go wherever we need it to go. I know that my counterpart here has been quite expansive through Bullhead City. We've worked all the way down to Top Rock with this program. We've worked with Mojave County and their mosquito abatement programs, trying to reduce the amount of adulticiding applications that they make. So we're here to expand it to wherever it can go and help whoever it can.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
You're welcome, anytime.
Okay. Number 5, under informational items, is receive a report from Greg Turner with Clark County Water Reclamation District regarding the status of the wastewater system. And there's nobody here from there. Number 6 is receive a report from Jason Bailey with Big Bend Water District regarding the status of the water system for discussion only. I think we saw him earlier. Here he is.
Okay to remove my mask or a little bit? Is that okay?
Yeah, you're 6 feet. We're good.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Jason Bailey with the Big Bend Water District with the report for the month of August. As you can see, total diversions were 388 acre feet. Year to date in 2020 is 2,373 acre feet. So compared to last year, we're less than 100 acre feet. Besides the 2 months where water usage was lower in March and April, kind of due to the pandemic and the shutdowns, we're really kind of tracking where we were last year with water usage. I also wanted to address a question Mr. Maniaci had. Last month, we talked a little bit about unused water allotments and what happens to that. We talked about the Southern Nevada Water Authority Cooperative Agreement. Mr. Maniaci asked if the Las Vegas Valley Water District had ever used water in excess of what they're allotted. And that answer to meet demands, customer demands, no, they have not. There was a short time in 2006 and 2007 where they did purchase a little excess water to artificially recharge or re-inject some of the wells, but for customer demand, they have not. There are no major leaks or issues to report at this time. That's my report. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions? None. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Number 7, receive a report from University of Nevada Cooperative Extension regarding the status of programs and upcoming activities for discussion only. Is there anybody here? Yes. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Haley Mayo, Hayley, last name Maio with University of Nevada Reno Extension. We are fully functional for extension activities as of September 1st, meaning that we are back in our offices accepting visitors on an appointment-only basis, and our programs and activities have to fall in university COVID guidelines as well as county. Will has been working with the schools and the library to get things settled to continue his after-school 4-H programs. October starts the new 4-H year, so we're going to be working on increasing the enrollment in his 4-H activities. And I have been working with the Las Vegas team to work on Master Gardener programs and community garden programs to bring down here to Laughlin. That's it.
Oh, okay. Anybody, do we have any questions for Haley? No. Thank you. Number 8, under informational items, receive a report from Jackie Mazzeo with Laughlin Chamber of Commerce regarding current and upcoming activities in Laughlin for discussion only.
Madam Chair, Board. The community guide that I talked about at the last meeting has been published. It's available. I will leave some on the back table for you guys to pick up if you want any. Any business individual can call and ask for the number of guides that they want for their, excuse me, for their guest rooms or anything like that, and we'll make sure that they are available to them. The Chamber would additionally like to continue to request marriage license services at this town government center and make sure that we make it as easy as we can for those people who want to get married in the town of Laughlin. Following up on Chris Bromley and the PhD, Michael Cavallero, we early in March created a Laughlin Chamber Water Flow Committee. The committee was founded in that month to address the unexpected low water levels on the Colorado River that negatively affected tourism primarily and recreation. The board, led by Bria Cialdini, is made up of stakeholders in Arizona and Nevada, government on both sides, resorts, small and large businesses, real estate, recreation, Bullhead City Pest Abatement, and Clark County Vector Control, tourism, citizens, and the U.S. Department of Interior Bureau of Reclamation. We have done a lot of studying and worked with all of these stakeholders to decide what things we need to work on next. The water flow in February and March continues to be an issue based on the amount of hydroelectricity that's needed in Arizona and California when they have solar projects that are providing the amount of electricity that those areas need. The Water Flow Committee has now added objection to the Lake Powell Pipeline Project and this caddisfly mortality pilot program to the list of projects. We are really proud of the partnership that Clark County Vector and Bullhead City Pest Abatement has done in learning not only the extent of the experience that Chris Brownlee has, but the recent PhD knowledge that Mike Cavallero has in presenting facts about the caddisfly and being able to help us reduce the immersion of those during the two major times of the year when we have best tourism. The Community Achievement Awards is still scheduled for October 24th. The planning event is continuing, although most of the things are really making a headway right now. The first judges meeting is tomorrow, so they can receive their binders, the nominations, and the biographies of each one of the people who have been nominated. This year, it will be at Laughlin Ranch between the hours of 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. Each category for the Laughlin, for the Community Achievement Awards will be on the half hour and half hour, and those categories will come through so that social distancing is practiced and no more than 24 people will be gathered in any space, so that they can still experience the acknowledgement and be awarded for Final Four and for the final crystal. Freedom of expression is still tentatively dated for November 5th. The Jingle Mingle Christmas party is still tentatively set for December 10th. Ribbon cuttings are scheduled at the market at Laughlin. Soft opening is on the 21st, and the grand opening with ribbon cutting is set for September 26th. Purple Cup Coffee is working on a soft opening planned within the next couple days, hopefully a week. They're still waiting on the final receipt of a permit. And the grand opening will follow. We don't have a firm date on that. Networking and education mixers are still not being planned at this time until we can decide how virtual we want to go and what kind of topics people are interested in being educated on. Our membership, we have total membership of 279%. Of Laughlin is 28%. New members this quarter, just this quarter, is 10. I'll entertain any questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Maniaci?
Of the 10 new businesses, how many are from Laughlin?
1.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Would you be able to include that in your numbers here each month?
Sure.
Number 9, under informational items, receive a report from Jackie Mazzeo with the Laughlin Tourism Commission regarding current and upcoming events and activities for discussion only.
Thank you. Madam Chair, Board, the Rockets Over the River, at this point, we have been able to get a tentative okay from LVCVA and Las Vegas Events for Christmas night at 7 o'clock and for New Year's Eve at midnight. This pleases a lot of people for New Year's Eve and doesn't mean that it's going to be ongoing because of our 4th of July celebrations going into the next year. But we are still in a hold pattern because of LVCVA and LVE holding back sponsorship funds. And until they release them, we are not able to do too many firm dates. These are the firm dates that LVCVA is looking at, and that's the ones that we're publicizing right now. Best in the Desert has moved from Laughlin for this year only to Glen Helen. Hopefully they don't find a better site than here for this event so that they come back. The reason that they left was because there was too many challenges through Clark County to allow them, and BLM to allow them to gather for large outdoor events. Spartan Games has been canceled clear across the U.S. Since the outbreak in Florida. So we will not be having those. There has been no cancellation of the Run Laughlin 5K, 12K, and half marathon as of this date because that small marathon can be scheduled starts and divided stops at the finish line. We think that we might be able to pull that one off really well. Snower off-road races for Southern Nevada off-road enthusiasts is still planned. We don't know how far that's going to go either. We are in the same holding program as everybody else. Colorado River Lifeguards program has been extended another 3 weeks and will not finish until the 1st of October. So we have lifeguards along the river sponsored by the Laughlin Tourism Commission through that date for Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, unless it's an extended weekend. The Kane Brown and Pitbull concerts have been moved to the year 2021. Any questions?
Are there any questions from the board? Okay, no, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so number 10 is receive a report from Parks and Recs, and I understand they're not in attendance. Number 11, receive a report from Laughlin School System regarding the status of programs and upcoming activities for discussion only. Hi, thank you.
Good afternoon, Dawn Estes, Principal, Laughlin Schools. First of all, it's just great to see everybody. We kicked off our school year with students on August 24th. We are virtual learning. Pull this down, it's easier to hear me. We're evaluating if we're able to come back in a hybrid model. A lot of that is dependent on the direction of the Clark County School District and our ability to social distance students, keep them at that 6 feet. So one of the things that we're working on at this point is what does transportation look like? If we can only bus 28 students at a time, how do we stagger starts and end times and still get everybody to school? In a sense, when we said our school mission is to create lifelong learners, we didn't realize those lifelong learners would also be educators as we started August 5th, embarking on multiple new learning platforms so that we can provide distance education for our students. There has been hiccups along the way, but I really want to give a shout out to our community partners. At this point, we've been able to deploy Chromebooks to every student that needed one. The district brought us hotspots sponsored by T-Mobile, so we've been able to disperse those to our families that send in that request. we are still able to provide those devices to families. They have to log on or call a number in Las Vegas to request that. The district does the vetting process, and then families are able to come to our local high school and pick up those devices. So when we look at our current enrollment, we are actually above our projected enrollment, and we are, in comparison to last year, we're sitting at similar numbers. So we were very happy to see that, to know that we have not lost a lot of families. We do know that our strategic budgets are going to be released on September 17th, and based on the special legislative session, Clark County School District, we lost $40 million. How that impacts us locally is that we will cut $125 per pupil. Right now, we're looking at that impact will be approximately $44,000 at our elementary level. And $10,000 at our high school level, only because in the spring at the high school level, we had previously cut $98 per pupil. So when you calculate the difference between the 125 and the 98, it's going to be about an additional $27 that we will cut. The district did invest some of the CARES dollar, and we retained our state grants. So where we initially thought we were going to lose some critical staff members due to lost programs, such as SB 178 and Read by 3, we will no longer have to make those cuts. So we are retaining those programs along with our gifted and talented program for our students. And then finally, we're looking at major construction projects to upgrade some of our facilities. At the high school, they're going to come in and do a basic repair on the roof. That's just maintenance. At the elementary, we know that there needs to be an extensive HVAC roof repair along with the drainage. And so currently, the cost of that construction is between $4 to $6 million. I was told that in order to do that project, the district would have to bring in portables so that we would displace our students from the portables into new portables while we repaired portables. So I am currently advocating and pushing back on the district to reevaluate the Bennett facility. Many of you have heard me speak before that the campus is made up of portables that were placed in 1986 and have been maintained. It's a tribute to our facilities and custodians that they're in the great shape that they are, but the time has really come for the Clark County School District to make good on a promise that was established in 1986 to build a permanent building for our K-5 facility. And in pushing that, I am requesting for that campus to be relocated up near the secondary campus so that we would have a K-12 with separate elementary. Eventually, there needs to be a separate 6-8 and that separate 9-12. And just thinking of what that looks like for the community over the next 20 to 50 years. We hope that our community doesn't grow greatly, but definitely we bring in more families and that we're able to provide those educational services. It has definitely been an interesting 6 months from the education perspective. And I guess I would just like to close to say how proud I am of our staff and our students and our families, because while it's been a challenge, even today I had students reaching out to me saying, I can't get connected into class, can you help me? And so that says a lot about our youth, and they're advocating for themselves to get that education that they deserve. So that is my update. I will answer any questions that you might have that I'm able to answer.
Any questions?
Yes.
Mr. Maniaci.
How long do you think it will take to convince the district to honor their 40 or 50-year-old promise?
Well, that's a difficult answer. When I became principal 10 years ago, I said that that would be my mission before I retire. And so I believe that we're getting closer to that goal. I want to believe, the last time I sent the message up, I said that perhaps it's not the best time in the middle of a pandemic to request this, but then again, maybe it's the best time to request this. So while we still have our students at home, we could look at what does it look like to bring them back to a new facility.
Okay, I do have a question.
Sure.
Can I just have the figure of the amount of students that we have per head?
Sure. At the elementary, 354 students. Our middle school, high school combined is 373. And so for K-12, we're sitting at 727 students. And last year at this time, we were at 720.
And 20 what?
Last year at this time, we were at 720, and today, or last Thursday, actually, we were at 727,
Okay, so
K-12.
we're increasing. Great.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 12, under informational items, receive a report from Tanya Brown Worth with Laughlin Library regarding current and upcoming activities. I understand she's not here. Number 13, announcement of upcoming neighborhood meetings and county or community meetings and events for discussion only. Does anybody have any community events? Mr. Robledo.
Madam Chair, I just have one. I just wanted to let everybody know that it was mentioned by Jackie for the ribbon cutting for the market at Laughlin on Saturday, September 26th. Both Commissioner Naft and Congresswoman Susie Lee will be coming down after making a stop at Searchlight for the grand opening, which will be at 10 o'clock. A flyer will be going out for everybody, as an informational flyer once we finalize their itinerary for the morning. But that should be coming out hopefully within the next, hopefully by the end of this week, if not, then sometime by the beginning of next week.
Okay, thank you.
I have one.
Oh, please, Mr. Maniaci.
According to the public health agencies, in August this year, there were a total of 59 COVID cases in Laughlin, 157 in Boulder City, and 230 in Mesquite. For the past 2 weeks, or the past 2 days of August 30th and the 31st, there were no cases in any of the three communities. The total of 446 cases compares to Clark County's total since the beginning of the counts of almost 60,000. That means Laughlin is less than 1%. The three communities are less than 1% of the whole county. And in Laughlin in the month there were 7 new cases, 27 in Boulder City, 75 in Mesquite. That's 109. In Clark County there were just over 17,500. That equals 0.006%. And to me that more than justifies a separate carve-out for the standards for reopening businesses down here.
Thank you. Moving along, number 14, under informational items, receive a report from County Liaison Mark Robledo regarding updates on the second bridge, Casino Drive, SID, 8-minute solar energy, and Lake Powell pipeline diversion for discussion only.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to give a brief update. This is going to be one of probably quarterly updates for these projects because we've been getting quite a few phone calls as to all of them. One specifically having to do with the 8-minute energy. So I had asked for an update regarding all of them. As regarding the second bridge, the Laughlin Bullhead Bridge, as it currently stands right now, the county is waiting for the notice to proceed from NDOT, the Nevada Department of Transportation, so they can begin the advertisement process. All other approvals have been received. The funding from RTC has been approved, and the RTC board will approve the Transportation Improvement Program for this project in September, so sometime this month. After RTC approves, the TIP NDOT will be able to issue their notice to proceed. They're anticipating advertising the project for bids sometime in October. So that's where we stand right now with the bridge. Casino Drive, SID, the county's received a 30% submittal from the consultant, which is GC Wallace. And so they're working on finalizing that 30% design to be able to share the findings. Their primary difficulty so far has been to provide an acceptable estimate on utilities required for the SID. So once they're finalizing the cost estimate based on the comments received during the review of that submittal, they're going to be preparing correspondence that will help define the utility requirements that need to be included in this SID. The 8-minute solar energy, we had a few calls at the beginning of August because there were some citizens noticed that there was some trucks out there in the unnamed wash area. So I inquired about that. 8-minute energy responded by saying that they were out there doing topographical and boundary survey work regarding the location and potential route for their proposed transmission lines. Nothing has yet been finalized. They're doing preliminary topographical and surveying studies for that. The final route is to be determined, and hopefully this just the initial surveys just for the reason to help determine the route of the line. So right now, that's the only thing that they've been doing currently. And so they'll be providing updates as they get them, and more activity that occurs down here in Laughlin, then I'll provide that to you. And then lastly, there's been a lot of inquiries, and I know that there have been some private groups and citizens in town that have sent up letters and made comments regarding the Lake Powell pipeline project. For those of you that don't know what that is, the Lake Powell pipeline project was passed back in 2006. And basically, it's a 140-mile long pipeline to be buried underground, which will flow to Washington County in southern Utah. The cities that it's supposed to service would be St. George, Washington, Hurricane, Santa Clara, Ivins, Laverkin, Tokerville, Leeds, Virgin, and Apple Valley. And at full capacity, the project should deliver up to 86,249 acre feet of water per year. There have been a lot of comments and concerns regarding the impact for the lower Colorado River Basin. Like Jackie had mentioned with the River Flow Committee, that there have been objections sent regarding this. And I think the last day was last week, the 19th. You can still voice your concern, I believe you can. You can get online. There's a link that I think we would be able to provide. And you can do it as a private citizen and either give your yay or nay regarding the project itself. So just wanted to put that out there for everybody, and those are the only updates I have on those 4 projects now.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Maniaci.
In reference to the September Transportation Improvement Program that the RTC is going to allocate money for, are there any reallocations from previous listings, and also how much?
That wasn't provided, Jim. That was just what I received was just right now. They didn't see the amounts. They didn't tell me how much. All they said that was going those permits were going to be approved, and then they were going to be able to move forward with being able to go out to bid for advertisements.
I couldn't hear you, Mark. I'm sorry.
I didn't get any figures regarding how much it's going to be.
Did they say anything about moving previously allocated money?
They did not say anything about that right now.
Thank you.
Any further questions? I don't have a question, but I do want to tag on to something here with respect to the Lake Powell thing. I did contact the River Council off of the website, and they did send me a little bit of information, statistical information, and so I sent it to Tammy. So it's back there on the table if anybody cares to look at it. Where are we here? Okay. Number 6 under the agenda is planning and zoning.
Number 15, Madam Chair.
Goodness gracious. Number 15, receive a presentation to recognize and honor a recipient for their dedication to the community for discussion only.
It's okay for the board for me to approach. Madam Chair? I'll just talk loud just in case. Madam Chair, may I please ask Kathy Oates to come to the front? Besides being a role model for me and making sure that we all know how to run a fair business and how to make an example of how you're supposed to be in us as a citizen of a township, we wanted to make sure that you were recognized for some of the things that you have done. This certificate is presented to Kathleen Oates this 8th day of September 2020. We want to recognize your commitment to the town of Laughlin. You set a great example for present and future entrepreneurial investors. You are an amazing advocate for community services and organizations. You provide a diverse voice to the Laughlin Chamber of Commerce. You support your tri-state community selflessly in time of need and celebration. You continue to be a voice for the citizens as a respected Laughlin Town Advisory Board member. You are generous with your canine training talent and resources to public safety. You have bipartisan approach to conflict and practice great diplomacy. You have been a mentor and trainer for young entrepreneurial business owners, and you have worked tirelessly with Clark County staff to bring county services to local and community events. You should know that we are grateful for your partnership and dedication to our community, and we should have all said it really much earlier.
I don't know if we can, how close we can get with this or what. Well, thank you very much. Obviously, this comes as a surprise because last week or last meeting, I had a change in doctor's appointments and I lose track of days. When you work 7 days a week, you don't track. You just go by your routine. This is much appreciated and much a surprise. You captured a lot of things that have happened for like 20 years in the community, and I do appreciate that. But I will say that this is nothing in comparison to what this community and this town has given me and my little companies. So I'll always keep doing exactly what I do until the day that I'm gone, and my businesses will survive me, and Gus will come in and operate in the same fashion that I have. But thank you all very much. And again, it's nothing in comparison to what this town and this community has given me. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. Okay, now we go to number 6 on the agenda, planning and zoning. Current zoning items, none. Previous zoning actions. And for additional information, there's a footnote here. See Clark County website on the internet at http://www.clarkcountynv.gov, Department's Public Communications pages agenda. Number 1 is WS-20-0282 Shipkey AH and BA January 12, 1989 Trust and Herrick Howe Trust. Waivers of development standards for the following. Number 1, eliminate parking lot landscaping. And number 2, permit alternative landscaping adjacent to streets. Design review for landscaping areas in conjunction with marijuana establishments on 20 acres in a C2 general commercial zone, generally located on the north side of Bruce Woodbury Drive and the east side of Thomas Edison Drive within Laughlin. And just so that you know, this item was approved by the BCC.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just for clarification, so our ruling was that we did not recommend approval, but the BCC did approve it. So
Apparently.
he's been given a waiver of development standards for.
That's my
landscape.
understanding.
Okay.
Are we correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
because it says approved, and I wasn't sure if they approved our motion or approved
yeah.
the item as written. Okay.
Yeah, in your packet, you'll have this here. And
Yeah, I did, but still, yeah.
should I read these conditions of approval or no? I'll go ahead and do it. Conditions of approval for the current planning where the applicant is advised that a substantial change in circumstances or regulations may warrant denial or added conditions to an extension of time. The extension of time may be denied if the project has not commenced or there was no substantial work towards completion within the time specified, and that this application must commence within 2 years of approval date or it will expire. Actually, that didn't really clarify anything at all.
That's why I asked.
Yeah, that doesn't, you know. But thank you for that. And unless there's any questions on that, I'm going to move on to number 7 under our general business section. No questions, so let's move forward. Okay, so what we have here, the only item under number 7 is review the fiscal year 2021 budget requests and take public input regarding suggestions for fiscal year 2022 budget requests for possible action. So what I'm going to do is go ahead, this is, I believe, the plan of attack here. I'm going to go ahead and read the project and the project descriptions. And then we have a sheet here that we can mark on there on scoring, meaning 10 the best, even though there's only 4 items. Pardon? Okay. So, but after I read this, what I'd like to do is open this up to the public for any comments that they foresee being a part of the 21 to 22 capital budget requests. So I'm going to go ahead and read this in to the record, and then we'll open it up to public. The first one on this sheet is the project is general room / control room digital upgrades. And the project description reads, replace and upgrade all audio-visual equipment in the control room, including encoder, decoder, various software, cameras, and television. The second item is Laughlin Chamber and Visitors Center parking lot repaving. And the description reads, repave a parking lot area on a county parcel adjacent to the Laughlin Chamber of Commerce and the Laughlin Visitors Center. The third item is Romtech Building Air Conditioning, with the project description as create an air-conditioned space in the concession portion of the existing Romtech block building. And the last one is Heritage Trails Host Site Addition, and the description reads, add a new host shelter site with shade cover and RV amenities to the bridge trailhead at the Colorado River Heritage Greenway Park and Trails. And just remember too, this isn't put here on any particular order at all. So I'd like to open this up to the public, and if anybody would like to come up to the podium and give us your ideas for the capital improvement project, that would be wonderful. Anybody? Seeing none, I'm closing. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Well, that was fast. Jackie Mazzeo, President and CEO of the Laughlin Chamber and Laughlin Tourism Commission. I would like to plead to the board to give the project for the repaving deep consideration, not only because the gravel is really loose, but it's also got a lot of dips in it that hold a lot of water. And since the removal of the old jail and that old building back there, the dirt does trail off into the parking lot, and it's all uneven. So if you could please give that some deep consideration on one of the major projects, we would appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Before I jump to this, I'll give it a little bit of time. Seeing no one? Okay, then I'm going to close it to the public, and I'm opening it up to the board. Do we have any discussion on this? And
Madam Chair,
yes, Mr. Maniaci.
for the 2021 capital budget, we had 10 projects. And the top one from everyone who voted was the control room digital upgrade. What does it say here? General room, control room. to move us into the 21st century. What was number 2?
Number 2 is the traffic signal at Bruce, according to this from last year.
Number 2 was a traffic signal at Woodbury and Needles Highway. Number 3 was
Up at the top.
meeting room furniture and chair replacement. And I need to ask Mark if that is combined in the current list with the digital.
There was discussion about that. I'll have to check into that to make sure, because as far as I knew, there were 2 separate projects.
Okay, and so which one are you listing?
This one that's on here is just for all of the digital equipment up here, because
The
that was.
audio-visual.
Right.
What would all would that include?
Pardon me?
What all would that include?
The audio visual? Oh, you would be talking about new TV screens, new microphones. You would have your own screens on each section of the panel up there. So there's quite a bit of, I think it's about $25,000-$30,000 worth of upgrades, just so they would be able to tie into the Las Vegas one as well, because we have
So we would have two-way audio-visual with Las Vegas.
right. Because right now that's almost as impossible to do with some of the equipment that we have. It's so outdated, and Doug does a lot of patching work in terms of doing.
Will that allow taping of the audio-visual part of the meeting?
Yes.
So you'll have camera back there to...
I don't know how the cameras would be situated. Doug has it all laid out, so I'm not really sure exactly where the cameras themselves would be situated.
So the public would be able to come in and view the disc.
Yes.
Would they be able to stream?
I don't know that. I don't know if that has anything capability in terms of streaming anything online, but it would probably be very similar to what's going on right now.
You know, attached to that is this one sheet here, and it explains everything on that particular item. There you go. So if you want to read that, then that should answer your question.
Yeah. Most of it, Jim, is just to upgrade this
out loud?
equipment.
Jim?
Regional Government Center, General Meeting Room, Control Room, Digital Upgrade. As part of the county's overall plan to go digital countywide, it will upgrade the equipment of Channel 14 to digital to ensure channel quality and capability to be enhanced and brought up to today's standards to TV broadcast and cablecast. It requires the purchase of reconfiguration and installation of new television studio recording and audio equipment for the Laughlin Government Channel 14, which has been operating for 20 years. Current control room equipment are out of date and being used as temporary solution. Likewise, equipment and furniture in the general meeting room are old and need to be replaced. The tab desk, TV monitors, and wall coverings in the general meeting room are worn, aged, and dated and need to be replaced to make compatible with the new digital upgrade and contingent with modern standards. Second item is utility carts, which has been taken care of. Parking lot project, repaving, potholes and severe cracks have led to degradation of the existing parking lot at the Community Resource Center, with continuous degradation each year. For the past few years, citizens and residents have complained of the poor condition of the lot, with deep ruts on the pavement being hard for both vehicles and for walking, often creating safety and tripping hazard.
Jim, on that one, let me piggyback on that one. There is money in this year's budget regarding the paving of the CRC and this building, both parking lots.
Which is why
Now,
it's out of the current
that's why
list.
it's out of this one.
Oh, okay. The Visitor Center Chamber parking lot, repave the parking lot. Potholes and degradation of the existing pavement has existed for many years and continues to degrade, creating a safety and hazardous matter. I wanted to ask you on the CRC parking lot, is that been taken care of?
There is some money that is in this year's budget for both the CRC parking lot
for this
and for
year.
this one. All it is, though, is for the design and engineering. It doesn't have any money for paving.
So that would come up in the following year, probably.
Yes.
Romtech Building Air Conditioning. This is for the concession portion of the existing block building at the Pyramid Canyon Day Use Area. And the new trails host site, the location of the proposed host shelter site to the bridge trailhead will provide the safety and security needed at the trailhead, as well as the most cost-efficient location due to its close proximity to existing infrastructure and access. The proposed work was originally included in the Round 6 Southern Nevada Public Lands Management Act after Rounds 5 and 6 funded the project. When the project was in the design phase, the county redirected approximately $8 million to the Nathaniel Jones Park in the Vegas Valley, which created the need to scale down the Heritage Trails project. The proposed host trailer site at the trailhead entrance location was hence eliminated, and the reduction. 4 other shelter sites currently exist at the other trailheads as originally planned. The host assists the county with providing security and maintenance. There are already safety and security concerns at the bridge trailhead location due to the many homeless in this area. During summer of 2016, a homeless man was found murdered at this site. So that gives you some more justifications for consideration.
Okay, so what we have here in front of us, and I'm not sure how we do this. It says, please score 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, but we only have 4 items on here.
Yeah, but right now, all you're doing is you're going to look at those, and if you want to add or delete any of those,
Okay.
final action will be done next month on the ones that you actually want to prioritize.
Okay.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, may I ask how much money is there for the capital improvement project?
There hasn't been a budget set for this yet.
Okay, well, I don't really have anything off the top of my head unless somebody else does to submit this by the time this meeting ends today. Can we submit this for the following meeting? Okay.
Yes.
I was just, Madam Chair, I was just
Yes.
thinking of adding in to this was the furniture. This is original to the, 80s? I think the interior color's been repainted, but.
Okay.
So that was on there, on the prior list as well.
Right, so we'll combine that one into the RGC control room digital upgrade, plus
Yeah.
furniture.
Yeah, if it can be.
Okay. Mr. Walker, do you have anything to add off the top of your head at the moment?
I do not.
Okay. Mr. Maniaci?
Wanted to ask, do you know when the budget will be done for this?
Yeah, it'll be done in January. So these are just prior submissions until they decide, they do the priorities. These are just recommendations of what it is that we need down here.
Thank you.
Okay, well,
Madam Chair, do you want to go ahead and have us do a tally?
no, I don't, because if we're going to have suggestions to put additional things on this list, it wouldn't be fair. We'd have to recalculate.
Do that next week.
Exactly.
Next month.
So I think we should just think about it, carry this over, and move on to the next agenda item, if that's okay with everyone. Perfect.
Since this is an action item, I will move to table it till next month.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 4-0 to go ahead and move this item over to the upcoming meeting, October meeting, and that would be October 13th under general business. Okay, moving to number 8. This would be comments by the general public, a period devoted to comments by the general public about matters relevant to the board jurisdiction will be held. No vote may be taken on a matter not listed on the posted agenda. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Please step up to the speaker's podium, clearly state your name and address, and spell your last name for the record. If any member of the board wishes to extend the length of the presentation, this will be done by the chairperson or the board by majority vote. And here we go.
Good afternoon, Robert Bilbray, representing the Laughlin Economic Development Corp. I wanted to give you an update from the item we discussed I'm sorry. Is that loud enough?
Yeah, you sound really muffled. I can hardly hear you.
I think I don't want to say I have a cold. Now I wanted to give the board an update on the issue that was heard in the last town board meeting regarding a request by the Riverside and the LADC for a separate COVID standard for the community. It was my understanding from the Riverside General Counsel that they had contacted each of the 8 hotels, and we received almost unanimous support from the other small businesses within the township. It was rather surprising that we only received 2 requests that went to the governor and to the Board of County Commissioners, and that was from the Pioneer Hotel and from the Riverside Hotel. I didn't speak with any of the other hotel interests other than Golden Gaming. I spoke with Steve Arcana, Chief Executive Officer of Golden Gaming, and also with their General Counsel. Initially, they were obviously very excited about it and would like to see a separate COVID standard. But then I received a call approximately 3 days later indicating that from the General Counsel that they had 66 bars in the Las Vegas Valley, and that was the reason they would like not to take any position on the request for a separate COVID standard. I did not speak to any of the other hotels. I understand that Mr. Laughlin's staff did speak to every other hotel, gave them the form letter, which I think you've all seen. The governor indicated to me the only letters he received from the hotel sector was from the Riverside and the Pioneer. So I would assume that's the case. I can't speak with respect to what the General Counsel for the Riverside did with the other property owners. So since last month, effectively, operationally, not much has changed for the hotel sector. It's looking very bleak with respect to phase 3 and releasing live entertainment. Very bleak. It may take as long as getting back to a vaccine. What is encouraging is that the county task force for Clark County did separate the standard for the Clark County School District for the rural areas and gave jurisdiction over our principal to handle the online versus in-classroom. That's the in-classroom studies. So that's kind of the closest analogy we have. I'm sorry, can I have a few more minutes?
Yes, please continue.
So that's probably the only thing we can probably see. Other than that, our township is really dependent upon how the Las Vegas Valley numbers come in. Some respects it's gotten better, but not many. We're going to have 60 of the commissioners through federal funding got 60,000 more tests taken in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I think we should all pray and hope those tests don't result in a higher percentage, either in positive cases or in deaths. I don't feel positive about that at all. The things I've seen just over over Labor Day holiday on Fremont Street, that alone made me, and I'm sure it did the governor too, very, very concerned over various players within the Las Vegas Valley. I don't think at this point that the township can do anything more than express what they've already expressed to the governor and to our Board of County Commissioners. And I'll keep coordinating with the commission chairman and with the governor as much as possible. I think all of you know where my heart is and where it'll remain. There's a lot of opportunities in this community that just are not going to ever be able to be realized until we get out from under this. And for me personally, I let my staff dictate whether they want to come back to work or not under these circumstances. Everybody's asking me that question. And they're the ones hurting the most, and it should be their decision if they want to endure the uncertainty of changes every week. I don't have to tell anybody in this room, this entire community has fatigue. It has had fatigue for months. They're just tired. They're tired of the knee-jerking change of rules, change of things, waiting for numbers to come from the rest of the county that we have no control over. All I can ask publicly is what I've asked before, that our township remain clean as much as possible. Don't get frustrated. Keep sanitized. And like I said, the last positive I heard of was August 17th. I don't expect, we know that when there's more testing, there's going to be more positives, and I would look forward to trying to support the board or the health district in any way in getting more tests here. I would like to see 10 to 15 a day out of our residential population. That's what I would like to see. I do not want to encourage testing of employees in hotels. There's just too much lack of control across the river. And I don't think that surprises anybody that I've taken that position. And like I said, I'll keep coordinating with the governor's office and with our county commissioners and see what, hopefully we can see a light at the end of the tunnel. I don't think it's going to be next week. I don't think it's going to be 2 weeks. Live entertainment, I think, is off the charts, and unless something changes, I wouldn't expect live entertainment to come back to the river until after the first of the year at the earliest. Okay? Any questions? I'll be glad to answer.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Jackie, thank you.
I'd just like to make a statement about Mr. Bilbray's comments. The Laughlin Tourism Commission's governing board did write letters to the governor regarding the request to separate the Laughlin community from the greater Clark County. Those letters were conducted alongside the Riverside, but the Laughlin Tourism Commission decided to do it as a whole, and individually we just didn't report that to anyone. The Riverside has been very instrumental in creating the employer-employee testing site at the old Easy Pharmacy, and it's been very progressive. I was one of the first ones to test it, and it worked really well on an employer and an employee basis. I did both because I was exposed, and that whole event from beginning to end as the employer and the employee was seamless. And I did get a report back in less than 48 hours. So that for the resorts is working really, really well. But it is employer-based. The employer will pay for the fee to have it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for the public, the general public section? Okay, number 9 is next meeting date is October 13th, 2020. And now we go for number 10, adjournment. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay,
at
all
10
in
after 3.
favor? Aye. Motion carries to adjourn 4-0 at 3:10. Our next meeting date, as already mentioned, was October 13, 2020. We are done.